What's going on today? Do you ever have that question in your mind, like, hey, when do these things come true? You know, you're reading a Bible verse or you're reading a story or you're hearing about something and, it runs in the background as if, yeah, I know that thing is true, that peace, that hope, whatever it may be, that joy. But when does it actually happen? Why isn't it available right now? Why hasn't it hit me just yet or whatever? Well, hey, I hope you're doing well today. I just wanted to put a little video out there because we're not going to have a gathering on the 28th of December. We're going to end the year giving everybody the day off, so to speak. We have some staff members and a lot of volunteers that work a lot. They do almost every weekend, a lot of us. And we just figured, hey, you know what? Let's take December the 28th, end the year on a note of rest. Not on a note of hurry or worry or more or any of those things. As you know, the Christmas season is wild and crazy, and it is sort of behind us, probably mostly behind us at this point, right? Probably still doing some returns or some gift openings, different people, different parties and whatever. But I just wanted to put this video out there kind of as a substitute to our gathering, I guess, on the 28th, which is tomorrow. But I wanted you to have it today for a certain reason. To me, when I hear of something or read of something, I have a very technician mind. I go back to like, hey, how does this thing work? How should it be working? What are the ground rules for it working? What are the sequence of events? What should happen first and then next and then next and then next? And that allows me to just diagnose this as a person. That's kind of how my brain works. So it's no different than when I read the Bible. I go, man, that sounds amazing. I would love to have that peace or that joy or whatever that thing is, that hope, or feel that way or feel that secure or know my identity. Or, there's a long list of promises in the Bible, right? There's a long list of things in there. I think that if we grew up in church, we grow up assuming just sort of come out of nowhere and happen. But at the end of the day, we have a part in it. God gives us a part in almost everything on this earth. He allows us to be part of that. And our formation, who we turn into, how we grow up, the adult that we end up, has a lot to do with us as well. Has a lot to do with our choices, has a lot to do with our yeses, and has a whole lot to do with our no's, right? And so I just wanted to touch on one quick thing. Again, you should be getting this on Saturday. If it's Sunday, that's no big deal, the 27th. But the one thing I wanted to really just kind of bring up is this thought of Sabbath. And obviously it's an old-timey word, I guess you'd say. So immediately your brain might go, oh, Sabbath, that's a Jewish thing, or that's a religious thing, or there's a law around that, or all these, if you have a little bit of rebellious spirit or individualist spirit, as I do, you might pass by that word right away and go, I think that's like an Old Testament thing, or that's a long time ago, that's a couple thousand years ago, and we weren't really Sabbath that much. Well, the Sabbath is Sunday, it's just a day. But if we really look back, and I love going back to the very beginning of things and going, hey, where did it come from? Why does it exist? Is it right for everyone? Is it just right for some people? Is it just right for a certain season? And if we look at that word Sabbath, it really means, just rest, stop, not more, less. If we really looked into it and we maybe got into a place of not worrying about what the future looks like or who we're going to be one day or any of those things, if we just stopped for a second and thought, hey, what would that look like to stop, to rest, to not worry, to not be thinking about more, but honestly be thinking about less. I think a lot of us inside conversations and little comments here and there, we say that stuff all the time, right? You run into somebody and you go, man, how you been? And they go, oh man, busy, right? We have all of our little sayings that should be indicators to us that our mind, our body, our emotions, our spirit, our heart is crying out going, I just need to find less somewhere. And so what do? We work 51 weeks and then we take a week vacation. And we worry the week before that we're going to pack everything and get there on time and the flights and everything else and yada, yada, yada. And nothing goes as planned. And so usually by around Wednesday or Thursday, that week of vacation, we start to feel a little something. If we're not on our email, social media, text messages, everything working during that week. And we start to feel a little something. Our body shifts. Our mindset shifts a bit. Then we pack up and come home and do another 51 weeks. Only 50 if you're lucky and you get 2 weeks of vacation. Maybe you have 6 months until the next one. But a lot of times we take even our vacation time as good old Americans to do what? Catch up around the house. We're going to do a staycation so we can, catch up on all the things we need to do, organize this, shop for that, cut down this over here, build this over there, catch up on work, start a side hobby or a side hustle or whatever. And at the end of the day, man, we just seem to be able to be really good at going 7 days a week. And it's not the design, and that's really what I want to talk about. So if you're seeing this has to do with Sabbath. While it, could be a Saturday or a Sunday or middle of the week if you have an odd work schedule, there's no religion around, the actual day of the week. But God was pretty specific when he talked about stopping and resting. So let's look at that real quick. Genesis, again, I like to always go back to the beginning. If you've been around me long enough, you'll know that I tend to do that quite a bit and go, hey, where did this start? Where did this come from? Why was it said? Who said it? And this is a pretty good one. So this is in Genesis 2. If you've got your Bible, go ahead and grab it. Genesis 2, obviously if you grew up in church, you know that this is the beginning of the earth as we know it, right? This is where God formed the earth. This is where he created man and woman. You've heard this story 100 times, maybe 1,000 times, maybe more. You might be able to go back and see the cartoon figures in your head of Adam and Eve and the trees and the animals and naming of the animals and all those things. But I would ask real quick that you kind of push all of that out of your mind for a minute and be open to a brand new idea on something. I was talking to somebody the other day on the phone, and it was a random comment, but it really hit me. He's a guy in Phoenix, and he said he was doing, I think he listened to a podcast or something, and he talked about how we need to disrupt our patterns because our life seems to go by really fast because we kind of end up in the same patterns all the time. And because of that, our brain doesn't really see life as new. It sees it as the same old thing. And that's one of the reasons why that life's time just seems to go so fast. The older you get, is because we get into rhythms and we get up at the same time and we drink the same cup of coffee and we eat the same thing for breakfast, or we go to the same coffee shop, or we go to the same workplace, or we take the same route to work. And so he's actually practicing taking different routes to work, going to a different coffee shop, coming up with some different rhythms all the time just to make life just a little bit different. And again, that's kind of a way of going, hey, you know what, I'm going to take charge of this in my life. It's very countercultural because what does culture do? A lot of times it puts us into a rhythm. I would really probably more say those are more like ruts. But all that to say, with this story right here, this little 2 verses of this story, I would really like for you to take the entire creation story as you know it and just put it outside of your head somewhere. And just act like you're hearing this from brand new. But starting in chapter 2, verse 1, thus the heavens and the earth were finished. So he'd finished the heavens and the earth and all the host of them. And on the 7th day, God finished his work that he had done. And he rested on the 7th day from all his work that he had done. Now listen to this. So God blessed the 7th day and made it holy. Another version would say sanctified it, set it apart. All right, so just hang on to that for a second. Because on it, God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. So literally the God of the universe got all the energy in the world, been around for a minute, and will be around for a whole minute longer. On the 7th day, what did he do? He rested. And he didn't, this isn't written down so we just kind of know some random fact about God. I mean, he just kicked back that day, must be nice. I have to do 7 days a week. We know this about him, so that we ponder that and we go, man, if he rested, perhaps I should rest. He rested on purpose, perhaps I should rest. Wonder what he could have done if he had spent a whole 7th day working. That's kind of how our brain would think, right? What if we'd given us the 7th day, like what more would he have created for us, right? But instead, what we see here is 6 days of work and then 1 day of rest. And that word made holy or sanctified means set apart. And one of the commentaries I've looked at before says he did that to set it apart for us. Not just as some random thing that happened and somebody wrote this down, but this is written down so that we would realize like God worked, and worked hard. He knew that it was good, right? But then on that 7th day that he actually rested. And if we move towards Exodus, Exodus, the next book in the Bible, chapter 20, so a little bit into Exodus there. we get into the 10 Commandments. Now, a lot of us know the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal, right? A lot of those things. Maybe we can't name all of them, but there's a lot of them in there that we'd go, man, no, I got those on lockdown, like I'm good to go, you know? But do you remember that actually the Sabbath is actually one of the 10 Commandments? And do the 10 Commandments, like, do they age out? I think a lot of people would say that, right? This is old-timey stuff. It's just really not how the world is anymore. We've changed. But I'm here to tell you, we as humans haven't changed a whole lot. We know a whole lot more. We have a whole lot in here, keeping everything that comes into here, getting into here. But at the end of the day, we haven't really changed at all. We're the same makeup, same spirit, same heart, same mind, same God, etc. But if you look into the 10 Commandments, it literally says, this is in Exodus 20, verse 8. There we are. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And it literally just says that same thing. To keep it holy, to keep it sanctified, to keep it set apart. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, etc. Your livestock, your male servants, all these different things. And so it's very interesting that in this, right, we would take this and we would cut it aside and kind of go, yeah, but that was Old Testament. That was an old tradition. That's the way things used to be. It's just not like that anymore. We go to church on Sunday for an hour or two, and then we are active with this, and then Johnny has sports, and then we're gonna rake the yard, and that's when I do all of my shopping, and that's when I do this, and that's when I do, and that's when I do, and that's when I do. God didn't do on the Sabbath, like he just was. And we have that example. And then, if you want to make it Old Testament, right? Okay, fine, make it Old Testament. But then if we shoot over here to Mark, which is the New Testament, right? This is literally a story of Jesus and the disciples walking through a field, a little leaf in there. There's a little gotcha moment. He always had the religious folk that were trying to get him on things. You said this, or you're doing this right now, and all these different things, which is always just, isn't that just the way? But they were going through some grain fields, and some of the disciples, the guys that were hanging out with them, grabbed some grain and ate it. And then, your Pharisees, your religious, self-righteous people came up and said, aha, they worked on the Sabbath. Like they picked their own food. You're not supposed to be doing anything. You're just supposed to be being. And this is a really interesting thing. Jesus always, a lot of you that might be skeptical of Jesus or have a mindset or he just gets a bad rap or maybe you resent some things or whatever. These are the things that I would say, hey, look into these little moments, because these are the moments where if you were kind of around right then, giving it a chance, you would have seen him do this and you would have been like, that was legit. That was pretty awesome. Maybe this guy's for real. Because he didn't fight the conversation with them saying, what are you doing? You're not obeying the Sabbath, like this religion, this like hardcore thing, like 24 hours of this or else. He literally fights it as he always does, more of like with statements of truth that are kind of out here that make your brain go, oh wow, I never saw it that way. And I think that's really what we're called to do as humans, is to love on people and to give them grace, and when they don't understand something, to be curious why they don't understand it that way, and then show them maybe a different angle to the prism, a different way of shining light through something to where they might go, I might give that a chance actually. I was told this 20 years ago, but perhaps I was told wrong, and perhaps it's something different now. So here's what he says. Let's see where I can get my bearings here, see where I want to start on this. Basically, the high priest, yada, yada, yada. And it's not lawful for anybody to, yada, yada. And he says to them in verse 27, I think, yeah. And Jesus says to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Now think about that. Like, that's a big statement. Like, if you're a religious person and you've been like cracking the whip and cracking people's knuckles because they're not obeying the Sabbath, and that's what makes you a really good leader, is making sure that they, don't do anything, or else you're out of the church, or you're, who knows what back then. I'm sure we could find out. But they took this thing that literally in Genesis, in their own Bible back then, right? The Pharisees, they would have had the Torah, they would have had their own Bible, the Old Testament, so to speak, and it would have said God rested and he made that day holy, he sanctified it, he set it apart. They took that and made it into a law, and it's in the 10 Commandments as a law, But we take laws as something like, man, you're holding me back. You're keeping me back rather than holding you back. But here's what God's doing. He is holding you back. Like he's going, look, listen, I made you. I know what you're capable of. I know the greatness you're capable of. I know the danger you're capable of. You know, the detriment you're capable of. I know what you can accomplish, and then I know what you can, what's the right word? Ruin. You need to rest. I don't care how young you are, how able you are, how smart you are, what you've signed up for, how bad your kids need to go here or there, you know, how much sports need to be played for this. Little Johnny's going to get a soccer career and all these little things, right? That seems so big to us. The chores you need to catch up on, the time you could save next week by doing this week. Here's what Jesus says right here. This had to have blown their minds. There's probably some of them that went, holy smokes, I never thought of it that way. And then a bunch of them that were like, how dare you? But he literally says to them, now these would be people that, you know, knew the law, knew the Bible, so to speak, so well, experts in it, taught it, you know, like could teach it backwards and forwards. And the problem is they'd always only taught it backwards and forwards. And here Jesus comes from like the left side or the right side, you know. And he says, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And so maybe that's what you need to hear when you're watching this, whatever time of day it is that this word Sabbath, this word rest, it was made for you. You can't get away from it. You can live your life exhausted, and it still fascinates me what we're capable of. Like we can go 7 days a week forever, you know, we can go, we can get our power naps in, or, you know, we can take these different vitamin supplements and we can have more energy for this and more in this and more in that. And I just sit there and I understand those things, but something inside of me kind of goes, or maybe I need to reset my lifestyle so I don't need to supplement for something. You know, maybe enough's enough. Maybe I've achieved enough. And then I go back to like before 50 years ago, 100 years ago, there were no supplements and vitamins to keep us going through a 25-day work week or a 20-hour work day so that we could achieve this and accomplish that and have just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. They asked one of the richest men on earth one time, how much is enough? And he said, how much is enough? Just a little bit more. And he was serious, but it is a reflection of our culture. So it's going to be very countercultural for you. And here's just some tips for doing a Sabbath, for actually resting. I give you the permission to rest. If nobody's ever given you the permission, and if I'm allowed to speak that into your life, I may not be, but if you're somebody that would say, you know what, I'll take his advice, I'm giving you the permission to rest. Now, give it to yourself. Allow yourself a day with zero productivity. That's kind of the basis of this. Don't be productive. This doesn't mean don't go out and do a hobby that's going to absolutely fill your soul up with joy, but don't catch up, don't produce. Don't try to, you know, figure out how to get ahead for next week. Don't do the laundry. You know, just do things that are restful, that aren't productive, that wouldn't fit into the category of doing, but more being. You know, if it's riding horses, go ride horses. If it's going to the beach, go to the beach. You know, back then, you know, the law, and maybe in some traditions still, the law is so locked down. It's like, you know, you looked out the window at your, you know, livestock, you worked, you know, or whatever it was, and even is. But take the law part out of it and put the care part in. This was God's mercy on us. This was God's, you know, mentoring us, you know, right from the first person. I mean, the first person would have known, yeah, God rested once a week. Like we take this day and we just try to connect with Him. And it's going to be hard. This is another tip. It's going to be difficult. I mean, if I'm not producing, I'm not worth it type of person. My worth disappears, which is wrong. It's stinking thinking. It's something that's programmed into me, and it's gently getting programmed out. I wish it was a miracle moment where it was just gone, but it seems to be taking more of a lifetime to get fixed. But it's going to be counterintuitive to a lot of you, and make it make it productive rest. You know, have the the point of it to be actually rested. It doesn't mean to be on social media all day. It doesn't mean to like binge a bunch of content all day. It means maybe it's a Friday night. You know, if Saturday wants to be your Sabbath day, that's great. Make it a Friday night, and 6 p.m. All of your cell phones go into a box. One thing I saw was like write down some things that you're thinking about getting done. Write them on little notes and put those in the box, and have like a box that you're like that. Sorry, my dog's crazy. My Sabbath box where like I put all the things that I'm worried about in that box and I just put it on the shelf. And maybe it's only 2 hours. Maybe right now you're like, bro, I have to do 7 days a week. Do it. But maybe you just take an hour or 2 hours, or maybe it's just a half a day. Maybe 6 months from now you're able to design your life to where you have an entire day. I am working on this. It's hard. But I know some people that do this. And it doesn't always happen every week, but you know, you do it a lot, and then you get better and better at it. Your body gets used to it. Your body goes to look for it, you know. Oh man, it's time for rest. Right now we're kind of in this mode where it's just time for more. So you can do, you know, your own thoughts on that and your own reflection on that. If you just type Sabbath into this, you know, the comments in here, I'll get back to you with some resources and things that have been helpful for me that I'm kind of using to study. And there's one more thing, and this is sort of a year-end thing. It's just a reflection guide that we came up with, and it just really guides you with some questions to go through, this last year and then this upcoming year. This is a part of it. Like, how often do you sit and think about last week? And you're grateful about the things that last week represented and what God was showing you in just life in general. Could have been in traffic, could have been in a God moment, could have been in any moment. And then what's maybe he telling you about next week? And this would be the same thing for a year reflection, is going, hey, what did this past year mean? You know, what did I learn? What was formed into me in this last year? Was it joy? Did I realize how to let go of things in life a little bit more? Was it grief? Did I grieve some things? Am I done grieving? Did I learn hard lessons that I'm going to learn again if I don't allow things to change in my life? So many things we can get from that if we would just sit for a minute and like turn our phone off. Everybody's going to be fine without getting in touch with you. Maybe even gasp, let your Snapchat streak, fail, fall, disintegrate, end. That'd be crazy, right? What if once a week your Snapchat streak ended and you could only ever go 6 days in a row? That'd be a goal right there. So this reflection, I can email that out to you or send it out to you, put it in a message or whatever. So, if you put Sabbath in the comments of this, I will definitely get back to you with those things. But the overarching thing is your year's coming to an end. It meant a lot. Stop for a second. Look back. What did it mean? Are there things you need to deal with in it? Are there relationships that are smoldering that need to get, reignited? Are there things that are affecting you right now that you're going to take into next year unless you stop and just think about it for a minute? And then those things, and this guide will guide you through it, but those things that are hanging on that you need to let go of, or those dreams for next year that, maybe were the dreams for this year that were never done. Those are prayer requests. That's what those are. So the minute you get in touch with those things that are on your mind, and then you realize that they have sunk way past your mind, down into your heart and down into your soul, and they're running in the background, they're weight you're carrying around, during your work week while you're just being productive and just surviving. This is the time of year to really stop. And really go, man, am I holding on to things that need to be let go? Or do I have things that need to be like released? Like I need to be, next year's the year for that dream. Those turn into prayer requests. And God wants to see those prayer requests come around, whether that's a no on his end, a not right now on his end, or a yes on his end. He will answer those prayers. So Genesis 2, God rested. He gave us that example. Exodus 20, don't forget that it's actually a 10 commandment. Remember and keep the Sabbath holy. That's interesting, right? Oh, yeah, Sunday's our Sabbath. Gotcha. Like, how do you keep it holy? Well, what do you mean by that? What do you do on a Sunday? well, that's where we catch up, we do grocery shopping, and we do all the kids' homework, and we clean the house, and we do this, and we do that. Doesn't sound like you're keeping it holy. Doesn't sound like it's set apart for you. It sounds like it's set apart for productivity. And then really jumping into that New Testament, just some of Jesus's words saying, hey, the Sabbath was made for man, not the man for Sabbath. And so this day is made for you. Don't make it legalistic. Do it when you can. If you can get 2 hours, do 2 hours. If you can do half a day, do half a day. If you can start it on a Friday night with dinner together with family or friends and literally sit there and talk about your work week and all of those things and leave the TV and everything off for 24 hours, and holy smokes, I mean, that's another level. But for now, maybe it's just an hour. Maybe it's just this time now. You turn off this video and you just kind of contemplate some of the things that I brought up. And these aren't my things. These aren't new things. These aren't the genius of Jared. These are just things that I have sought after for the last 4 years and gone, God, I want to attach myself to these things one day, and help me be good at that. I want to be good at it for myself, and I want to be good at that for people that I lead. So that's it. This is kind of a message for our last, gathering of the year. Maybe you're seeing it on Saturday, and maybe this afternoon you Sabbath. Maybe you're seeing it for Sunday and it's 10 a.m., and you're going to do that today for a couple hours. Maybe all you end up doing out of this entire thing is just turning your phone off for 6 hours and going and doing laundry, but no phone, nothing distracting, no podcast, no music, just allowing your soul to hear, allowing yourself to hear God, and allowing just life around you to do what life around us does, which really it talks to us quite a bit. So, for instance, you hear the birds right now, beautiful day in Charleston. Doesn't even seem fair that it's 75 and sunny and it's Christmas time. I got a dog that's insane right now that's running circles around the house with a tennis ball in his mouth because I'm paying attention to you guys, not to him. Donkeys in the background I think I see there. They're just doing their thing. Don't even ask. Very snooty, super sweet, but very snooty. The wind is blowing a little bit. Kelly's overfeeding the horses. The kids are here doing things. God is speaking in so many ways. And I know he speaks to you. I hope you slow down to listen. So happy end of the year. Happy New Year. And if I don't see you beforehand, I'll see you next year, which is wild. And I'm excited about that. So bye.